Thank you for joining us here on talkSPORT 2 and the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. I'm alongside Steve Harmison, looking back at another horror show for England, sadly. Harmy, 5 days into this Ashes, in terms of days played, are we already starting to think about the post-mortem for the Ashes themselves and possibly even Bazball?
Definitely the Ashes itself. I think definitely the Ashes itself. Bazball, I think we've got to look at whether I think that would take a little bit more thought time evaluation on the overall McCullum-Stokes key combinations. So I think that's for another day. I think it could be close, but for another day. I think the Ashes itself, yeah. I never thought anybody could lose the Ashes quicker than Nasser Hussain, but it looks like we're going to do it. And I was part of that, so I'm joking at myself. I was going to text him earlier to say somebody's lost it quicker than you, but he's out in Australia with Arthur's doing a sterling job for Sky, and what they've been talking is complete sense. And I think we all have got a similar opinion, John, which this England team are very frustrating. Yeah, they'll never ever be a great side. They're a good side. They'll never ever be a great side because this last 2 or 3 days, systematics of where the difference between a good side and a great side. Great side absorbs pressure. A great side works out scenarios and situations where you earn the right to play Test cricket. This is Test cricket. And unfortunately, England, I think in a passage of play of about 3.5 overs, 8 runs between Ollie Pope getting out and Zach Crawley getting out, I think this is this team in a nutshell, an absolute nutshell. When you look at Starc, Boland, Nisa, Doggett even at the end, I mean, Scott Boland faced 72 balls as a number 10. He valued his off stump. He valued his wicket. He valued the bloke at the other end. He understood what the situation and the challenge was. He's a number 10. We're sitting here now, 5 down, 6 down, thinking, where's our value? Brook got a good one, kept low, caught on the crease a little bit. Brook got a bit of a good one. A good bit of bowling from Australia. Boland and Starc were what happened with Harry. But Pope and Crawley, we came into this series of them as possibly our weak links. People talking about their weak links. Yeah. When anybody wants to say it to me, they looked all right. They got 20 and they got 40. 20 and 40 is the problem. No to 10 is not a problem. You've been got out. 20 to 40 is systematic of what this team is, and they get themselves out. And that, you can't do that in Test cricket, under lights, pink ball, the Gabba, Starc, the record he's got, and expect to get through, without criticism.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was watching Ollie Pope bat, and I just thought to myself, if Ollie was in this year, he's a great guy. He wants to succeed. He's desperate to succeed. Maybe he's too desperate to succeed, but the limitations at times are clear. But, he's been batting alongside Joe Root now for 5 years, right? He's seen how Joe Root goes about his game. And I watched him bat today against, was it Nisa? It might have been, no, I can't remember. Basically, he sliced the ball over mid-off on the drive. He then outside edged the ball over second slip on the drive. Both shots played with hard hands, right? Pushing at the ball. When you could see that Australia were targeting the crack that was enabling them to get variable bounce off similar length deliveries. And the very next ball from the next over, he did it again. And he just punched it back to Nisa. And you just think, I honestly don't get that. I don't get that. I'm struggling to think of a single Australian who was out on the drive in their innings, in their entire innings. And yet I've just seen Zach Crawley, Joe Root. I mean, Brook wasn't on the drive. He was actually trying to defend outside off stump. But I don't know. Look, and this is why there's so much chat, because both of those guys are on 1-year deals, right?
Yeah.
They're absolutely on 1-year deals. So,
you mentioned Joe Root. But John, you just mentioned Joe Root there. He's batted with Joe Root for 3 or 4 years. Maybe he's more. I mean, he stood at short leg. He stood at backward point, and he's watched Mitchell Starc and Scott Boland bat for about an hour and a half. Scott Boland had both feet nearly behind the stumps. He's 6'2", 6'3". He used the depth of his crease. We've got Ollie Pope at 5'8", lunging forward on a bouncy wicket. That's doing a bit. I mean, I can understand Zach Crawley coming forward because he's 6'5". But I think Ollie Pope, and you're right, 100% right about the character and the person. Yeah, we all love the person and the character. There's not a nicer, other than Joe Root, I don't think there's a nicer person in that team. But where you got, I mean, you're reading the surfaces, but also, I mean, the technical deficiencies in what he's trying to, I think, how he's trying to play in Australia is mind-boggling when it comes to, you're trying to lunge and hit big drives from the stature you are in Perth on the bounciest wicket in Australia. The second bounciest wicket in Australia is probably the Gabba. Throw in pink ball with a bit of lights and a little bit of sideways movement, and you're still trying to come forward. I mean, you look at someone like David Boone, who played all them years ago, with a similar height to Ollie Pope. I think Boone ever and I don't think he ever hit the ball down the ground unless it was a Yorker length and he punched it down the ground. And Ollie Pope was still trying to drive ball after ball after ball from a 5-meter mark, which is going past him waist high. At some point, the penny's going to drop. I'm listening to the commentators, of which I know you give Matt Pryor a big up yesterday, and TNT of getting some stick from I think it's more their production rather than the guys that are speaking, and Finn and Cook and Pryor, who I think Pryor has been a brilliant addition to that group, and hopefully he stays out there. But they were talking about Harry Brook, and Matt Pryor's talking about Harry Brook. Oh, he's one of the best young players that England ever had.
I agree.
Best player. You heard him say it.
I heard him say it, and I did raise an eyebrow.
He's played 32 test matches. I mean, some people don't even get 5 test matches in their career. This kid's played 32 test matches. He's England's vice captain. Matt Pryor's talking about him as though he's just walked in the team and he's wet behind the ears like a Will Jacks or a Jamie Smith. Now, the penny's got to drop eventually with something, and like comes back to what I said right at the very start of this half an hour. England will never, ever be a great team under McCullum and Stokes. They'll be a good team because they'll win games when they're miles in, like they have done. But when you've got to earn the right and you play test match cricket, great teams know how to get through difficult passages. And England are going to lose the Ashes inside probably 8-9 days. And the reason why is because they're not a great team. They're a good team, and they're lovely to watch, and they're great ambassadors, and they're good guys. They really are. I mean, this is probably the team.
Australia aren't a great team, right? So how is it that Australia have managed to outbat, outbowl, outfield, dare I say it, out-captain, without their captain, without their best bowlers? How have they managed to do that? Or haven't they? Have England just been so wretchedly poor? Or have they just lost the big moments in these games? You know, that afternoon session, they've essentially, England lost 2 sessions at Perth. That was the game. But they've been bad. They've been really, really bad for 3 days in Brisbane. Yeah. They had 1 hour towards the back end. You know, I read Zach Crawley going, we had the perfect last hour after play. And what is he supposed to say? He's just saying, well, it's true. Yeah. They did have a nigh on perfect 50 minutes. Although, actually, you could think to yourself, yep, they gave up 50 runs in that last 45 minutes or so, Australia, but they didn't lose 2 or 3 wickets. And actually, which one's better? Because if they come into bat with an hour to go on day 1, then they might have not had that 70-run partnership for the first wicket. They might have been 3 or 4 down, but then England would have had 250 on the ball rather than 320. Anyway, the point is, are England that bad or Australia that good? I
don't think Australia are that good. I just think Australia are very streetwise in moments and passages which are difficult. And I don't want to call these lot soft, because they're not. They're not soft, and they work very, very hard. And they're talented individual cricketers. But I think when it comes to the cause, and you look at the cause, Australia's fight between 9, 10, and 11 this morning and last night and this morning against our bowling attack, when they valued the game situation and knowing that if we need to be out here for an hour this morning, an hour and a half, to win the game and make sure that all that comes into streetwise game management that's where Australia are different to England, because England, all they want to do is, this run towards the danger. I mean, if I hear that once more, I mean, if there was a lion standing in the middle of the road, you wouldn't run towards it, would you? You'd wait till he goes and gets behind. You'd hide behind a tree, and then you'd run away from it as soon as he can't see you anymore. This run towards the danger. Wow, that makes me laugh. But they are streetwise in situations where England, we go harder. Go harder? Well, Zach Crawley and Ollie Pope went harder, and England have gone from being building towards a streetwise game, good game situation, to losing the Ashes in the space of 2 overs. Because if you look at the scorecard after that, I mean, Crawley 97 for 3, and all of a sudden we lose 3 wickets for 6 runs, 7 runs.
This always seems to be the way with England, though, doesn't it? You just always feel like you're 1 wicket away from a collapse, and it's proven to be the case again. And you look, I listed the partnerships that Australia managed to put together in first innings. Every single one of their batters reached double figures. How many 50-run partnerships were there in that innings? I mean, I don't know what you say, which is a shame because we've still got another 15 minutes. Homie, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you, because yesterday when we spoke, you defended Bryden Carse. How has Bryden Carse taken all those wickets and Gus Atkinson's taken 1? Or is that's when I don't understand cricket. Bryden Carse has got absolutely hammered today. You were quite not positive, but you appreciated what he was being asked to do yesterday. Was he being asked to do? Because it was not like he was just bowling short with, a stacked leg side field time and time again, okay, which we've seen Stokes employ that tactic. He was between 2 lengths, short and full, a lot of yesterday. That doesn't sound like a tactic to me, but maybe it was. Today again, England started out with Carson Stokes, and he was bowling short and wide to Mitchell Starc, who we know what Mitchell Starc is, a hitter, right? Yeah. And he just stood in the crease, all 6'15" of him. He leant back and he just carved it over cover for a couple of boundaries, and Australia were up and underway again. It was mystifying.
There's a couple of things in this, right? And bear with me because I'm going to go on another one. But I think Ben Stokes, looking at his body language, I'm worried that Ben Stokes is about to do what Andrew Flintoff did in 2006-07 and just take the whole lot on, do everything himself, and either burn himself out or get himself injured. And the reasons why, and it comes to the end of the Carse one. Yesterday I defended Carse because I've been in that situation. He's run in and he's give everything, right? The effort level of Bryden Carse yesterday was a star. The actual product of Bryden Carse yesterday was nowhere near that. I think the first couple of spells that he had, he got caught between a rock and a hard place of hitting the deck, bowling it into the pitch, and he was far too short and far too wide when the field was set up. When the field was set back and he was meant to be bowling the short ball tactic, I thought he did his job very, very well because that's what the team needed him to do. He went for a few runs, but your job is to get wickets. And he came away, he got 4 wickets, right? He was very, very expensive. He could have done a lot better. Today, I think it's seen a little bit of sample size. And I heard the commentators asking why that Carson Stokes started over Archer and Atkinson. I think Ben Stokes is getting frustrated with his bowlers' production of coming back second and third, possibly more than that spell, because their levels have been down, their paces have been down. They've not hit their areas as well as they have in their first spell or their second spell. Rewind to the rant I had yesterday about preparation. They're still probably, in this game, you probably won't see the best of them until you get to Adelaide because they've got even more overs under their belt. So I think he started with Carson in himself this morning because he had a new ball around the corner. And he's thinking, if these 2 bowl now and then have to come back for the new ball, their second spells yesterday, their third spells yesterday were powder puff. I ain't running that risk. So me and Carson are going to go now. At least we're going to run in and hit the deck. The big heart, big character, that's what Stokes and Carson have got. And I think that was probably in the thoughts of the captain rather than something tactical. I think it was a negative. and not a positive looking towards a second new ball. I just don't think he had 2 spells in Archer and Atkinson to nail that new ball, so he kept them for that.
Yeah, understood. But this goes back to the selection of Will Jacks. And look, tomorrow he might smash 100, right? But, well, he does have to. Because, well, anyway, when you go in to a test match with four, it's been a long day and morning. 4 bowlers, 2 of which have got injury concerns with Archer and Stokes, who've missed a lot of cricket over the last 4 years. One of which is Brydon Carse, who we know as series goes on, actually, he picks up injuries and what you get back from him, worryingly for England, diminishes. When you go into that with 4 fast bowlers, you are asking for this to happen. This is why I asked about the Will Jacks decision at the start, right? England had to bowl 117 overs. Now, they wouldn't have done if the catches had been taken, but not all catches can be taken. But that is the problem. They're also bowling in the heat of the Brisbane sun for 2 days straight. So I do understand, maybe where Stokes is coming from, disappointed that the pace levels are down. But if they had had the same approach to this match that they had for the Perth Test match, which was just 1 Test match away, and come in with 5 bowlers, then they wouldn't have this problem. And Australia wouldn't have made 511, and they wouldn't need Will Jacks to score a century tomorrow to save the game and keep the Ashes alive. Or am I being simplistic? But I did raise this point before the match. I'm not just saying it 3 days in.
Yeah, and a lot of what we've all said is not trying to be smart after the event. We've said this, whether it's preparation, selection, or anything like that. I think the Will Jacks one, you're 100% right. But at the top of the game, you're trying to predict of how the game's going to go. You can't legislate for catches being dropped. You don't want to be bowling all in the midday sun. You win the toss. That should be the start of your game plan going well for you, and you're hoping that Jacks is going to take an effect tomorrow afternoon, when you would hope that Australia were chasing 200 to 250 to win the game. That's when you'd hope you'd have Jacks in, and Jacks would then have had an influence in the first innings and the third innings of the contest by pushing that score towards 200, 250. So he still might do it. I mean, pigs might fly, but I understand the Jack selection. I really do. I think Australia picked 5 fast bowlers because they were worried about Cameron Green's production. And I don't think they thought they would get much out of Cameron Green after last week. Now, I think England went in with 5 bowlers in Perth because I think they were possibly thinking the similar with Mark Wood's body. But I now worry that Ben Stokes, like I said earlier, Ben Stokes is now in a position where he's getting frustrated with his team. You've seen him. He got a bit frustrated in his body language. He was having a go at Jofra Archer, who wasn't on the one when, everybody in the world knew you had to try and stop one when Scott Bolden was on strike, and he got a single first ball after Stokes was pushing him. You can see that Ben's body language is at boiling point. I worry that Ben Stokes now goes down the route of what Andrew Flintoff did. And if you remember, and this is something to watch for, John.
Yeah.
You remember when we had the honest conversation, me and Andrew, about my apology towards him and saying I wasn't there, I didn't turn up for you, we are best mate, this, that, and the other. And his reply could be something that he could be thinking about Brydon Carse. When he turned around and went, I know I could trust, I know you get better, X, Y, and Z, and I know you'd run in and the character you've got. I think in Brydon Carse, Ben Stokes sees somebody who will run in all day, every day.
Yeah.
Don't mind being expensive and give everything he possibly has. And I think he might look around the dressing room and look around the rest of his bowlers and go, are you going to run in like him after 25 overs, the way he's done it? Because if you're not, then I'm going to have to keep picking him. And if he's going to go at 6 and over, so be it. But I know for a fact I'm going to get the work ethic that I'm getting out of him, and his pace isn't dropping, and he's giving me everything I've got. I think he's getting frustrated, possibly with the rest of them.
Well, he won't have to bowl much tomorrow, will he, Stokes?
No.
And there's another, what is it? Another 10-day gap between the second and third Test matches.
Yeah, and there's nothing much you can say other than, yeah, the Ashes will have they've got to sort of dust themselves down. Stokes and Jacks can hopefully get themselves in a position to not lose by an innings, because that looks a hell of a lot worse. But there's a huge amount of. I don't think it's something like as simple as. I think it's something as simple as it's not the talent that's the problem. It's not the talent. I think it's like everybody's been saying. It's the brain cells. It's the game management, and it's the way we don't absorb pressure. It's the difference between why we're a good side and not a great side. We're playing against a side who's not a great side. But I tell you what, their numbers 8, 9, 10, 11 today showed more game awareness and application with the bat than our top 6 have in 3.5 innings.
Oh dear.
Sorry, take Joe Root out of it.
Yeah. Take Joe Root out of it, of course. We can't. Where would England be without Joe Root? Still losing. Yeah. I mean, we've got a long way to go, haven't we, Harmy? A long way to go for the wheels to feel like they're already falling off after 5 days of Test cricket, of the most eagerly anticipated Ashes series since 2010-11, I'd say. Certainly, maybe even going back to 2006-07. It's a damning indictment.
It feels like 6-7.
Yeah.
And I was there.
So was I. We've only got a minute and a half. It would be churlish of us not to mention Mitchell Starc today, who not only showed us all that, he can take wickets, he showed us he can bat, he can play the game situation. Australia were desperate to bat out that first session. They did so. I mean, Pat Cummins owes him a beer or two, doesn't he?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that is a Test cricketer. That is a great Test cricketer. It really is. I mean, even in times where there was a spell he didn't get quite right.
Yeah, right at the start. But he just been batting, right?
Yeah, but
for 3 hours.
Yeah, but the thing was, he didn't get it quite right. But you know what? The difference, the good and the great that I keep going on about, is that he found a way of making himself still a challenge for the batter. He pushed across. He was wobble seam, pushing across. He wasn't getting it. He wasn't finishing his action offs, and he was falling away, and he wasn't getting it to swing back. So he was like, right, I'm going to give away from that. I'm just going to push it across. Keep the momentum going. Keep trying to put pressure on, challenging and around the sort of 4th, 5th stump. When things aren't going well for you as a Test match cricketer, you find a way to stay in the game, stay relevant, stay challenging your opponent, and then when you get your chance to strike, you strike. And that's exactly what Mitchell Starc's done for 3.5 innings of England's batting. And then, obviously, he was a champion with a bat. And what he did with the end was fantastic.
Harmy, I'll wrap you up. Listen, we'll speak to the producer, Scott. We've got thousands of people watching us on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube stream. We'll try and go longer tomorrow. And really recap this Test, the whole series, maybe look ahead to day 5 after England bat all day. Either way, we've got plenty coming up on talkSPORT 2 for you. We will try and get through some of the many messages that have come through on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. I did mention 2013-14 because everyone was bored by the Ashes by that point because we'd already had one. And also the fact that only 1% of the balls would have gone on to hit the wickets against the tail enders. We'll talk about that and more on following on Ashes Inquest tomorrow from midday on talkSPORT 2 and the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel.